My first experience was actually late in life. I was probably in my very early 40s, and I became a volunteer teacher of English as a second language to Russian immigrants via Jewish Community Services. Number one, always strive to be the best person that you can be. And number two, you have an obligation to be the best person for the people around you, and you can't just be focused on yourself. So I see giving as a series of concentric circles. There's you improve yourself, then you improve your family, and then your community, and then and you keep going out as you have more capacity to do more things. So it's really just a mental construct that says I live in an interdependent world and I have an obligation to other people. In my philanthropy, I'm always looking for the maximum leverage. Although I don't diminish philanthropy, which is the form of direct aid given to people. I think that's really important. It's also very nourishing for the philanthropist to solve people's problems. But I prefer to work more in the abstract and ask myself, how can the money that I spend have the maximum leverage effect? And that is usually in the area of focusing on policy and advocacy and how the government runs the country, if you like, the politics of philanthropy. I've spent the last 4 years trying to examine what's wrong with our economic system just for my own personal education. And through that process became very concerned about the environment and the degradation and global warming. And simultaneously, I was watching in horror as Donald Trump convinced 70 million Americans that the election had been stolen, and watched with great relief as the courts of America, 60 out of 61, turned down his claim because they were looking at evidence, and they were committed to their trade. Even the Republican judges all basically said, you've not provided no evidence. So I thought, imagine if you applied that principle to climate, because our government is lying about what they're doing, and yet people believe it, which creates a lot of confusion. So I thought what we ought to do is sue the government for breach of duty of care and negligence in the management of climate. And we would then be able to present scientific evidence to the courts. And I was pretty excited about that. And then my wife, Carol, said, surely there must be an organisation that already does this sort of thing. And then we spoke to Melissa and Rob Caston, and they said, yes, there is. It's called Grata. And so I picked up the phone and rang the CEO of Grata, and I said, are you doing any litigation or proposing to do any litigation against the government for their climate policy? And she said, as a matter of fact, we are, and we need some financial help. So we offered to contribute. I then sent an email to the AEGN membership, and we raised, I think, about $450,000. And the case has now been lodged and is proceeding. If you can get a court to say that our government is in breach of their duty of care and they're acting negligently, and require them to change their policy settings, then that is a $450,000 extremely well spent. The other one is the Jewish education project that I've been leading in the last 2 odd years. And that also came out of just sitting and observing the philanthropists around me who were supporting Jewish education in its various forms. And I asked myself the question, could I apply my energy and my philanthropy to make a more fundamental change to the way Jewish education works? We're already heading in this direction. Carol and I are sort of potentially creating conceptually 3 buckets for our philanthropy. There's going to be a general bucket, which is just being members of a community and a society where you have obligations to support a range of things that are important, that are well run, that you like. And then there'll be a second and a third bucket, and they will be in the gender, and equality and diversity area. And for me, very much around the area of economics and climate and sustainability, and really putting an increasing proportion of our time together with our money for causes, so that you're actually, if you like, effectively in an executive sort of role, so that you really roll your sleeves up and you get engaged deeply in what you're doing.